Hey everybody, welcome to InPsightRadio. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. I'm feeling particularly dramatic today. How was everybody? I hope you were terrific. And I'm going to get right to our guest because we have a ton to talk about. And I'm super excited to have her back in the studio with us. You have heard Melissa Scianna on the podcast many times. She is a healer. She is an herbalist. She is into all things botanical. And as a healer, we end up talking about a lot of spiritual physics and spiritual dynamics. You'll also recognize Melissa as one of the Road Angel crews. So as Road Angel fires back up here next week, we have opportunities to have fun and just do other fun things that we do. But anyway, today, I'm bringing Melissa in today because she and I have had some fascinating discussions privately on this topic. And we both thought that it would be something that everybody could benefit from kind of being a fly on the wall listening to. And the topic today is how to find your life purpose, because this is something massive that I get asked all the time in readings. So Melissa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Great to be here.
And how are you today, girl?
I am good. And this is an interesting topic because it's one that I think we're going to explore the answer to as we go. So I am not coming in here as an authority on this thing. It's just something we talk about, you know?
It is. Yet I find that some of the conversations that we've had, I think would very much benefit everybody.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know?
Yeah.
So we're going to dive right in here. And one of the most pressing commentaries that I get from clients calling for readings to ask me about what's going on in their life right now is, what is my life purpose? Because my life purpose is changing. And just to set up our topic, like if we were playing volleyball, Melissa, I'm going to poof the ball in the air so you can whack it over the net here. But the setup is that with COVID coming in, and I've talked about this a lot on this podcast, with COVID coming in, it's reset our society. It's reset people. We're not in the rat race we were. People had time to really think about what they're doing and slow down. And once they did that, there was a train wreck in their life and their head for many people. And let's just kind of start there, because that is the basis of, in America, evaluating our purpose oftentimes is, quote, what we do for a living. Right?
Right. Yeah.
And from a spirit, and you're a spiritual healer, you're actually a reader too, although you won't call yourself that, but that's what you do during your Reiki sessions and healings with people. You get tons of information for people and you bring it through for them. So even in working on your clients, you know, what are you finding just in general in your corner of the world with people confronting this confliction of professional identity versus their purpose? What are you finding?
Well, I'm seeing now, I think there's almost two aspects of it, right? There's the whole us going into COVID thing and having to slow down. But now that there is a perception, especially in Montana, I don't know about the rest of the country.
Poor Montana.
I know. That that we're getting back to life. Almost, we're beginning to approach life as normal again. And people are feeling like they need to go back to work. They need to be productive.
Oh, yeah.
Again. Because the hiccup here, part of the hiccup, I think, is people's sense of self in our country as Americans is so identified with productivity. Oh, yes. And, I mean, here, I'll just cut to the chase, right?
Go, girl.
And then we can talk about it. And productivity, being constantly busy and productive, like we've been trained to do in this country, keeps us from having quiet time. It keeps us from having downtime. It keeps us from listening.
Yeah, to the universe.
To the universe. And that is how we find our purpose.
And so I'm going to just dovetail on that. So I would agree with that 100%. And one of the things I think is so interesting from that perspective is that when I've got a client who's saying, I don't know what to do with myself. How many of you listeners out there got sidelined with COVID. Some of you didn't. I know a lot of people continue to work, right? I mean, I continued to work through COVID. I was working on the phone. So my life didn't change all that much through COVID-19. Yet I could feel it slowing down. So I've got clients who are saying to me, I don't know what to do with myself because of the productivity issue. So let's break down our corporate consumerist model, or I like to call it the sociopathic consumerist model, that states that we need to be a hamster in a wheel 24/7, grinding for the man, if we are going to be of value. And the value of our grind then equivocates our purpose in Western consumerist America.
Right. So can you see the hamster wheel going around and around? You know, our value is our ability to work hard, which is our value, which is our ability to work hard. You know, yeah, boy, that's almost like a whole separate topic where it feels like this culture was created to keep us from finding our purpose, which is like a whole nother thing.
Actually, no, let's weave it in. Let's grab that sucker and weave it in, because I have noticed that, girl.
Yeah.
I have noticed that. I've been doing this job since out of the closet, okay, out of the psychic closet. I have been doing this job since 2004, officially. So, God, what is that? How many years is that? 2014? So 2024, that'll be 20 years. So what, 16 years? So I've been doing this out of the closet, dealing with human ups and downs for 16 years straight. And you begin to see some pretty amazing patterns in people's lives. And one of the patterns that I see is in America, we literally are trained that our purpose is creating momentum generally for someone else. And that's fine. I mean, like, you're employed by a corporation or you're employed by a mom and pop. And our job as human beings, we are made to have a function. That is true. I mean, we're not just made to sit there inertly and do absolutely nothing 100% of the time. That's going to make us into weird people. That's where we get a lot of the TV show characters of the very wealthy people who have nothing to do, and their whole life is creating drama and dysfunction to give them some false purpose.
Yeah.
Right? So, but let's definitely talk about this. I mean, what is the deal? This is why people, you know, for 15, 16 years now, people have said, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And I'm going to put you in the hot seat, sister.
Okay.
You are so good about that.
Bring it.
You just let me do it. You're so good. You know, I know that you personally have gone through a significant, I told you. She's blushing, ladies and gentlemen. Here it comes. You personally have gone through some really big recognitions in yourself during the last year. And you don't have to get super personal, yet I think an overview, if you're willing to share some of it, I think your overview and journey would be very helpful for people, because you came from a corporate background.
I did, yeah.
So kind of, you know, spill your guts out here, because I think you know where I'm going with all that.
Well, yeah, okay. So I went from a corporate background, as everybody might know, when I was, 48, 49, I decided I didn't want to do that anymore and started my own business, which was an herbal apothecary retail store. And from there, like, I really decided that, it's such a ongoing project, right? Figuring out what our path is. And sometimes it changes. And so from there, I loved doing herbal stuff. I love working with plants. But you know what? I found out that I do not like retailing that much.
You're not a retail chick.
No. So like, my business has morphed through different stages and become smaller and more intimate and more of a, well, until now, where it's the apothecary part of the business is really it's more like my personal magical workshop.
Yeah, it is too.
Man.
That
I invite people to come into by appointment or really, that's what I do.
Right.
I really don't retail anymore. I love to have people in and I love to talk to them, but I don't really retail anymore. Anyway, that's just background. So then when COVID came, my business slowed down quite a bit. And really, that's what prompted me to really pull it in.
Right.
The retail end of things wasn't even a thing anymore, except for mail order. And and I liked it.
You like the slowdown.
I still like the slowdown.
Yeah.
And so I pulled my business in, and it just became more a really authentic representation of me.
So the smaller, okay, so I'm just going to pause you right there.
Okay, go.
So here you go from this corporate background. You were making a nice high 5-figure salary. To my recognition.
That's what you wanted to talk about.
Well, no, I'm just starting. I'm starting way back there, right?
Yeah.
And then you morph into having your retail space, which, by the way, everybody was absolutely gorgeous in Billings, Montana. And I'm going to brag you up.
Thanks.
As a first-time female small business owner, Melissa put together a grant for the city of Billings and got a big old grant from the city to put money into a downtown antique business building to renovate it. Mm-hmm. And so I also want to bring this in because this is an important piece of the puzzle. Women out there who are listening who think, oh, I want to do this business, but I don't know anything about anything. Did you know anything about anything when you applied for that grant?
No, I did not.
But you did it and you got it.
I mean, I have a business background, but no. Honestly, I kind of maybe in my 48 years had written a business plan once. Maybe.
And they gave you how much money? How much did they give you?
That one grant was $11,000. Yeah.
So here you're getting this grant to put in lighting and whatever. This is an important part of our puzzle and purpose. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Melissa puts this beautiful thing up. She gets supported by the universe to leave her corporate job and open this dream apothecary, teas and herbs to do your herbalist work, right? Mm-hmm. And you had that store for how long?
3 years.
Okay, 3 years. And then you decided, geez, I love working with the clients. I love the client consults. I love mixing potions and herbal remedies for people individually. I love doing the individual section work. Not so much having a store 24/7 sitting here while ta-ting goes on the door.
But it's so interesting because I may have continued to do that if everything was in alignment. But what honestly happened was I received some messages from the universe over and over again. The location that I was in kind of started changing with some construction across the street that was keeping traffic away.
Right.
That was coming up, and I saw that coming up. And then I had some other issues with the location, which really, in the end, is what prompted me to make the choice to move.
So drawing attention to spiritual prompts from the universe and purpose.
And
okay.
So in combination with how you're feeling in your, what your intuition is and how your heart is feeling. I mean, that was all part of the same thing. Oh, we should tell the story about the sign falling down.
Oh my God, totally. Okay, so
anyway.
So yes, and so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So as you can see, here Melissa goes along and her life purpose has taken her out of corporate America and now she's got this apothecary, but then something in her's going, God, I'm not sure really retail's nailing it for me, even though I love my clients individually. And then, then it's hard to get to, and the universe is just kind of choking off flow. So you decide to move your apothecary, because we're talking about life purpose and how to tell you if you're on your path here. You move it to Bridger, Montana, which is much smaller than Billings.
Well, and I moved it closer to where I live.
Right.
So I was driving an hour twice a day to get to the location in Billings. And I just felt like those 2 hours every day of my life was this giant waste of time where I could be hiking, where I could be helping people, where I could be making things, where I could actually be hanging out with my family, having quiet time.
Yeah.
Doing other things. And I really didn't like. And I thought, at first I thought, well, maybe the problem is that you're just driving too much. So let's try it closer to home.
Okay.
So then I did open a retail space closer to home. And I actually explored 2 different locations during that time. And now am I telling the story about the sign?
Yes, and now you're telling. Yeah.
And then, honestly, even through that, even having a retail location
in Bridger,
a quarter mile from my house,
yep.
I still didn't like retailing. I didn't like sitting in the store waiting for people to come in. I just felt like my time, I really, really strongly felt like my time would be better spent doing other things.
Right.
and struggled with that and whined at my family.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Until one day, and it was Mother's Day.
Oh, man.
It was Mother's Day last year. That's what it was. It was only a year ago.
Boy, that seems like 14 years ago.
I had this great big beautiful sign hanging on the street over my store. And we went on this hike, our whole family, and I'm sure during that time I was whining about how I could be hiking more if I wasn't so committed to be in the store 6 days a week all day, and then we drove home and we got to my house in Bridger. And there's the sign that was hanging over my store, a great big, heavy, beautiful, expensive sign.
Yeah, it was what, 6 by 6? It was a huge metal sign, or was it bigger than that?
It was bigger than that, I think.
It was like an 8 by 8 sign.
I don't know, it was huge. Sitting not over my store, but on the ground at the top of my driveway. I was like,
I remember that.
What? Do you remember getting out of the car?
Yeah.
And do you actually remember what
I
you said?
remember getting out of the car, and the one side of the sign was all dented in.
Yeah.
So and it was one of those signs that sticks out sideways from, like, it mounts. So if you're walking down a sidewalk, you can read the sign.
It's like perpendicular to the wall.
Thank you. Yeah. And so it had dislodged, and thank God no one was under it, because it would be like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and they'd be a grease spot on the ground.
It was
that
a
sucker
Sunday.
was huge.
Yeah.
And it dislodged and crashed on the ground. And I remember, I don't know who said it or how it came about. Did I say it?
Yeah. Of course.
Something about being like, well, that's a pretty clear sign. I guess you're done. The universe just ripped your sign down and handed it to you here.
It's like, okay, that was that.
And so we're talking about purpose here today, gang. We're talking about how to find your purpose. And I wanted to put you in the hot seat just initially here, Melissa, because your story, it mirrors a lot of my clients' stories, which is, I have this background. I thought I wanted to do this thing. I put everything into this thing, and God, then this thing is not what I wanted to do. So do I even know what I'm doing? Because remember, gang, if you're an American, you are forged, most of us, under, especially of a certain age, Gen X and up specifically, you are forged under a hammer that wants you to do the same function in the wheel over and over again, like a widget, for 45 years, like a conveyor belt. Then they want to take you out and give you a gold watch and send you on your way. So if we change our mind in our jobs, that's not seen as stable in America. That's seen as a jack of all trades, master of none, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
So then we speed forward and COVID hits.
Yes.
So by this time you're working, you moved your apothecary into your home, and now it's your magical workshop, and you take appointment only, and you take people in, and it's adorable, and you got a new house, and you moved your beautiful apothecary over there, and it's its own beautiful space by appointment. And then COVID hits.
Yeah.
So now you are experiencing the COVID lesson that the entire United States is experiencing, which is slowing down the money flow, slowing down the pace, so you have time to think.
Yeah.
And why don't you share with our wonderful listeners here today, Melissa, if you would? Why don't you share some of your insights that you heard when you were in that quiet space, not on the hamster wheel, not trying to support the rent of a big space in downtown Billings, not trying to make payments on a big sign. What did you hear?
Well, and I don't want anyone to think that I don't have my own personal struggles with some of this. So there's days when I too question, am I making enough money? Like the whole capitalist culture thing is not lost on me.
Right.
Just for the record. But,
America!
But I honestly think, and I don't know if this is where you're going with this, but humans weren't created to ride the wheel. Whatever you believe in, whether it's God or the universe or whatever, we were not created to work so much, 40 hours a week,
24/7,
whatever. And if you have your own business, sometimes it is that much. But we are not created to have a lack of fun. We are not created to have a lack of quiet time. I think, and I'm just going to say God created us to enjoy our life because in the midst of the joy, it's contagious.
Yeah.
You know, like we inadvertently do beautiful things for people when we're happy.
Yeah, that's true.
And when we're grunting and working in corporate America and coming home every night and falling into bed, there's no time to think about how you can help people. There's no time to just be happy and joyful and share that joy with your other humans. I honestly believe that we were created to not work so hard.
And so to dovetail on that point, you know, one of these things that these angels have been showing me through this whole COVID lesson, and you and I have talked about this a ton. I've done a ton of podcasts on this. I talk to my wife about it all the time. I talk to my other friends about it all the time, is that our purpose in our life will change.
Well, yeah.
And this makes people highly uncomfortable because remember, we're taught to be, and I'm picking on corporate America. I know a lot of wonderful people who love their corporate jobs, gang, but we're just using that as a construct just to illustrate an ideology here.
I loved my job.
Yeah.
My job was great.
I know.
So,
I have very good friends who work in corporate America, and they work in very healthy corporate cultures. Yeah. That encourage them to take family time and whatnot. So obviously, I'm not wagging the flag of all corporations are evil because I don't believe that. I believe there's good people and bad people. And actually, I don't believe there's bad people. I believe there's wounded people and people who choose not to act out of their wounds.
But wouldn't you also say that yes, there's good and there's bad? But wouldn't you say that corporate America is a system?
Yes, it's a consciousness too.
It's a consciousness. So even though my job was amazing, I got to help old people every day. It was the best.
Yeah, I
loved it. But it was still, it still was that culture.
Yeah,
I still worked. I worked 50 hours a week probably. Back in those days.
Probably more than that if you include the drive time in and out of Bridger.
Much more if you include the drive time, yeah. And it's still the culture of you need to make more to have a fancier house, to drive a fancier car, to take fancier vacations.
Do you know what this angel just said?
What?
They just repeated part of your sentence back to me. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this angel that's sitting on it's my right, your left. Over here, it's the angel that walks with your higher functions, how you think about things, just said, make more, take more. That's what you're trained to do. Yeah. Make more, take more.
Yeah. So while some corporate America jobs might be better than others, it's still a consciousness.
It is a consciousness. So with that knowledge, okay, and that's the archetype we're casting as dice onto the game board here. With that archetype out there, that consciousness does not distinguish individual life paths because that consciousness is a personality. It is a system. And if I'm hired, and hey, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. If I'm hired to wash windows for Joe Blow over here, then I better get my butt over there and wash the window. That is the function I'm being paid for, okay? However, window washer may or may not be my entire life purpose. Maybe I'm somebody that is thrilled with making clarity out of dirt, and maybe that's awesome. Yet the point being is that our life path changes, gang.
Well, yeah, and as this whole time, one of the things that's been coming to me is that our life path is a journey.
Yes.
And so, you're asking me what has happened in my life path, and I'm telling the story, but honestly, it's still happening.
Yes.
And everything is still changing. And it's fluid, really.
It is fluid. Purpose is fluid, gang. So I'm going to hit this point kind of hard a minute here. Purpose is fluid. And we engage our purpose by engaging our willingness toward fluidity in how we apply ourselves to the world. And we are not in America. Now, I don't know if you're an international listener, gang. I sometimes I feel like I'm shorting you because I don't know what all the cultures in the world are like. Of course, I'm speaking from an American perspective over here. Yet from the American perspective, the fluidity is discouraged because fluidity is seen as a negative versus function in the larger system or machine, right? And so one of the things that COVID brought up, Melissa, that I saw with a lot of people still seeing it, even though we in Montana are weirdly pretty much back to normal, which is odd, even though we've got a fourth COVID strain blowing out all over the United States. We've got a very unique system running our state right now. So in Montana, there's this illusion that everything's fine and that COVID has gone away. And with the exception of restaurants and whatnot that have a sign that say, please wear a mask. And some people do and some people don't. Because our governor said, no more mask mandate. We're all open. Who cares? So it's really different when we look at purpose and we look at the contrasts of purpose and fluidity. Because the reason it's different is that our life path and our life purpose, it's going to change. So during COVID, many people's corporate jobs stopped. Their independent jobs stopped.
Yeah.
A lot of emergency brakes were pulled. And I had a lot of people coming to me saying, I don't want to go back to my job. I do not want to. People were having nervous fits the week before having to return from COVID, right?
Yeah.
People had anxiety. They had ulcers. They were quitting. They were literally, I had a ton of clients, I'm not kidding you, who wanted advice on how to draft a resignation letter because they just decided they didn't want to go back. They didn't care.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of morph the conversation into a more present place and into the future. And just bring through our personal, Melissa, our personal insights on how to work with this fluid portion of your path making and purpose. Like, what are some signs that you noticed from the universe that kind of pointed your nose in a different direction?
Well, honestly, one of the things that I wanted to bring up that you were talking about how your clients were feeling, and so many of my clients were feeling the same way, except for that there was, they were using the word, like, they were saying stuff like, I'm feeling so lazy. I don't want to go back to work. I feel so lazy. And I feel so, what's wrong with me? I don't want to be productive. And
that's hard.
I think that's in it, and it's still happening now.
Yeah, I hear that too.
I hear it a lot. And I think that that's part of the energy of the culture in this country.
The American consumerist culture.
The consumerist culture in our country. And I think that they're not lazy. So I just wanted to bring up, if anybody out there is feeling like they're a crappy human because they don't want to go back to work, or if they're feeling like they're lazy, it's just not true. We weren't designed to go to work every day like that. And I think during the whole COVID thing, people got a little bit more in touch with how humans were designed to work. Interesting. Here's the thing that happened. I had this long conversation this weekend with my wife because I went out. We moved recently, and she has a little workshop that was stacked high with boxes and just stuff. And so I went out there this weekend and cleaned it for her. Aww. And organized it. And it took like half a day, but I came in halfway through to have breakfast with her. It was on Sunday. And I was like, I am having such a great time out here. And she's like, well, what do you mean? Why is that? And I'm like, I am using my hands to do something that requires a little thought, but not very much. So I'm just like taking the stuff out of the box, figuring out like how to organize it. Like the hammers are all going to go over here. The saws are all going to go over here. But the beauty of it was I didn't have time to think of anything else. So I wasn't thinking about the problems that our state has, the world has, COVID, blah, nothing. I was just thinking about where that hammer goes, where that saw goes. And it was beautiful and relaxing. And I came in and I was like, God, I feel so good. And she made this interesting point about the human design.
Right.
And she's like, think about it, Melissa. How were we created? We hunters and gatherers, right? We went from one issue, like we're going to go pick berries this morning.
Right.
That's what we're going to do. And we weren't really thinking about anything else. We were just picking the berries and letting God talk to us. And it just brought up the point that she also said, that's why people knit. That's why people paint. That's why people maybe play music, because it puts them in a space where like nothing else is really getting in, because they're busy doing this thing and they're using their hands. How important it is for us to use our hands in connection with our mind. I am totally getting off topic.
No, you're not. No, you're not, because that has to do 100% with meditation, first of all, and being present.
So, and that's what's related to COVID, because I think that a lot of the time that we were stuck at home over the last year, people started doing hobbies. Like I started building paludariums and aquariums and doing other plant things. But people started doing different hobbies, and hopefully not just being connected to screens all the time, but like people began to have that meditative experience.
Yes.
And I think that maybe plays a part in what people don't want to lose now.
And what it beckons, the meditative experience of working with your hands on one singular thing that you can see from beginning to end actually gets accomplished.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and let me just put a pin in that and hang a little note underneath of it. In my world, nothing is concrete. Okay? I literally, in my world, deal in timelines. I deal with angels, and angels are quantum beings, and there's zero that is concrete about an angel. The only thing you can count on with an angel is it is or it isn't, like a binary code. But other than that, there is nothing concrete there. Timelines and futures are constantly, they're like the staircases in the first Harry Potter movie. They are shifting and they're moving and they're grooving. And it's like if you saw the movie Insurrection, with all the buildings that would switch and change over as they went into the layers of their dreams. That is my universe 24/7. So if I have an opportunity to stop that quantum and cosmic endless shifting out there and help my beautiful, gorgeous, amazing, lovely wife plant tomatoes.
Right.
F yes, I'm planting tomatoes, because guess what? I dig a hole. All I'm thinking about is that hole. I put the plant in. I put the dirt on. That's all I'm thinking about. And Rebecca and I might be chit-chatting about something.
Sure.
But what you're talking about here is something that we as human beings we see that as a luxury or a hobby. And let me give you some science facts. I'm going to nerd out. I'm wearing my NASA shirt. What a shock. I've been living in this T-shirt. I should probably put it in the wash before it walks itself there, to be honest with you. But I love this shirt. So here's the fact about the human brain. Our prefrontal cortex is what is our executive decision-making center. And we have decided over millennia that in forming civilizations that our prefrontal cortex keeps us safe, because this is our critical thinking center. Now, the problem is if we spend too much time in our prefrontal cortex constantly trying to strategize, we create a trauma response in the brain that the brain sees if we're always on, figure it out. Oh my God, it's whack-a-mole. I got an asteroid coming at me. Dodge that dinosaur. Look out for that oncoming truck. I mean, if that's our life, the prefrontal cortex will go into a trauma response, gang. Are you hearing me? It'll go into a trauma response because the brain doesn't know the difference from being hammered with constant stimulation that requires decoding or else, or I'm going to get eaten by a bear, so I better run. Oh my God, I could be out of food, so I better panic. It's a panic response in the prefrontal cortex when we are constantly under stress to have to figure something out always. Now, we're talking about COVID. We're talking about life purpose. I want to make sure to draw the topic of this podcast in so we don't lose it in a thread here. And in order to find our purpose, we have got to allow the limbic system in the brain, which is the center part of the brain. Like if you wore a headband from the 1970s, girls, or gentlemen, perhaps you were branching out back then, and you put a headband on and it kind of goes from ear to ear over the top of your head. Or if you wear headphones right across the top there, that's the limbic center of the brain. It's the feminine center of the brain. The masculine center is the prefrontal cortex, or the decision maker, the one that keeps you safe. The limbic system, however, must be engaged in order for us to be able to hear nature, to hear the universe, to hear space, to hear rocks, to hear dirt, to hear our emotions. And we see in artwork from the 1100s and 1200s, we see artwork where the saints and Jesus in Catholic artwork, really above their head, in the middle of their head, not in the front. You can see the artist has backed it towards the middle of the head. They've got a little flame right above their head. And that limbic system also, if we're going with a more Eastern approach, is where the crown chakra lives. Okay? So when Melissa and I are talking about going into do something like go to the garage and organize a shop for her wife, that organizational repeat, focus on one thing, be in the moment, people. Are you hearing me? Right? Be in the moment. Be present. Being present, gang, is the limbic system of the brain. The prefrontal cortex is constantly trying to strategize about your next move. The limbic system is over there going, dude, I love it. This is great. You know why people drink, Melissa? Besides the fact that it's just fun sometimes, if you can do it within balance with yourself. That drug of alcohol depresses the reaction time of the prefrontal cortex. So it shuts it the hell up.
Do you know that this is not an answer to any of this, because downtime is definitely the answer. But do you know, and we've talked about this maybe before, that you know how sometimes you might wake up in the middle of the night and your brain is spinning?
Yeah.
And that's your prefrontal cortex, right?
Hell yes.
Or even during the day. Like there's times when you're worried about a million things. You can actually move that energy away from your prefrontal cortex. Like right now, as we are talking, I can feel the energy coming out of the middle to back of my head, not the front. I'm not really thinking about the electronics or blah. I'm just like vibing with the conversation and the intuition and stuff. And you have the control. People have the control to focus on their prefrontal cortex and move the energy back in their head. That's
100% true, girl. Mm-hmm. I have put on forums about that. I've done podcasts. We've talked about that. Mm-hmm. And one would say, well, how is that possible? Because remember, we're talking about life purpose here.
Right.
So what the hell does the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system of the brain, and your life purpose and COVID have to do with each other? Here's what they have to do with each other. Is that in order for us to be fluid and fall into our journey that's going to change as you get older, as you pack on more experience in different areas. Maybe you thought you wanted to live in one area of the country your whole life and you've decided, hell with that, I'm moving to Belize. You know, whatever you're doing, that is being fluid with your life path. And you'll notice that if you are fluid with your life path, you will notice different opportunities will start to sprout in your purpose. Mm-hmm. Now, if you find your prefrontal cortex gets, and I always call it the 1950s grumpy dad, right?
Yes. Oh, that is so stuck in my head. Yeah.
If you find, so you're trying to be fluid, man, COVID shut down your life. You're like, oh, I'm not going back to the plant. I hate working there. I'm not doing it. So you craft your letter and you quit and you feel all of a sudden the middle of your head just open up and go, I don't have to be there anymore. Now, gang, I really want to put a brief disclaimer out as I'm saying this, because I'm looking in the air above Melissa's head at timelines. And I'm looking at some people listening to this podcast that may misinterpret this message as, hey, unplug from your life, stick a nickel in your shoe, run off, and God will take care of it. Ride a unicorn. That's not what we're talking about.
No.
We're talking about, and I'm going to get a little hardcore here, people, but if you're listening to this podcast, if you've overstayed your welcome in your job. And this is not a judgment, gang. It's just an honest assessment. If you're staying there because you're not sure how else to pay that Verizon or AT&T bill or that mortgage or that car payment. Mm-hmm. And you can continue to work in your current job that's making you miserable. The universe will try to slam those doors, and we can muscle right through those doors every time. The universe is not going to force you into a better situation. However, I would encourage everybody, if you're unhappy in your job, if you're not, rock on, keep doing what you're doing. Yet if you feel like you like your job, but you're not quite on your purpose, we're going to go back to Melissa's comment at the top of this podcast because it is synonymous with many other topics that I've had a chance to talk about in this podcast series, which is about joy. How do you want to find your purpose, gang? First, here's your bullet points. Get out a pen. Here it is. First and foremost, you got to get the freaking prefrontal cortex to shut up for 5 minutes so your limbic system can hear your heart and connect to the universe and begin to assess a different plan of action. If you want to be on your purpose, you've got to make sure that you are not confusing your purpose with earning money. Now, for some people, their purpose is earning money. I get that. For many people, earning money is confused with what our purpose is. There are some people out there who are hammered from the stuff to make billions of dollars in order to reinvest that and create whole other systems. That's their purpose. But I guarantee you they're not after it for the money. They go to the joy. So the purpose, when you are stepping out to find your purpose in this fluid portion of life that COVID has thrown the emergency brake on, go for the center of joy. So number 2 is, what gives you joy? When you shut up the prefrontal cortex long enough to listen to the limbic system that's connecting with God and the ground in your heart, what sounds fun? And then there is the fluidity portion of being able to act on what sounds fun. And yes, we need to have a plan, but I say this all the time. We're in the feminine time frame, and the days of the 5-year structured plan that's going to go down the Excel spreadsheet, bullet point to bullet point, executed with extreme precision, that's over. Hate to tell you. So this is more that we have to kind of just surf it. And, if you're a surfer, I surf on my belly. I'm a waves, body surfer. But if you watch surfers, they cannot plant their feet in the exact same way every single time on the board, and they are constantly moving their body weight. We should be doing that through our whole life. That is how we surf our purpose. And we get stuck in these identities and stuck in these ideals. Mm-hmm. And that prefrontal cortex is like the grumpy 50s dad. It's trying to protect us, right, Melissa? The prefrontal cortex.
Right. Yeah. And it's probably quite a bit influenced by the energy of our American culture.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody out there after hearing the science behind all this and why it's good to get into a meditative space? And a lot of us got into those meditative spaces during COVID. We planted gardens, we knit, we went back to organize our cabinets, and we heard the universe.
Yeah.
And for many people, the universe was saying, excuse me, what the ever-loving hell are you doing with your life? You're not happy? You're discontent? Not only are you discontent, you're grumpy and crispy and you wish you were dead. This is all you, it's not me. Truly, I'd like to bring you something fabulous, but you're just not listening. So let's co-create something together, shall we? And I noticed that this happened for people all over the place.
Yeah.
Of course, in my version, the angel that comes to talk to you about your life path worked with Mary Poppins at some point in 1965. I don't know. But what advice would you give people, Melissa, that are struggling with understanding that maybe they're stuck in a job that is killing them because they know their joy is somewhere else that's super weird, that's not related to any education they have at all, and maybe they are in their mid-40s or 50s or, God, any more the folks you guys in your mid-30s, quit being so hard on yourself about changing career. Come on. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just simply saying you are in a great place. If you're in your mid-30s listening and you want to switch gears, do it.
Do it.
That's a great time to do it.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give people who are struggling with all of these factors in applying how to find their life purpose and how to enact it?
I would say, I'd like to just take it back and finish my story too, because what happened to me in last April was with added quiet time, I could hear the universe. So my first advice, number one, would be find time to slow down. Like if it's going outside and taking a walk every day, and it doesn't hurt if you're by yourself.
Yeah.
And I know like for some people, it's super hard to be by themselves and listen to the universe because it's kind of scary for some people.
Yeah.
So like, but give yourself the time to do that because that's when the universe is going to talk to you about your path. And that's when you're going to find your joy. So what happened to me was my wife and I got sort of prompted to look into selling our house. And we did, and we bought a smaller house. So one of the things that we were able to do to make our lives a little easier was downsize our house and downsize our debt. So, and it was definitely a prompt by the universe to do it. And so what's come around for me, and honestly, my journey is not done. My purpose changes every other day, I think, depending, honestly. I have like 5 different jobs and I didn't even count 3 of them the last time, So, but what that has made possible for me to do is work and start other ventures in my work. But you know what else I get to do? If there's somebody in town that has a project that I believe in, I have the luxury now of taking a day to help them.
And when you say I have the luxury now, is that because you lowered your financial overhead?
I think so. It's because I lowered my financial overhead. It's probably also because I've changed the way I live a little bit, maybe. My expectations for money aren't as high. I don't know. It's a weird thing. And I don't know if you're going to agree with me or not. But money just, like, we get what we need. It just happens. From one source or from another source, I get a couple great clients, I'm learning that I don't have to have the plan in place, really.
You know who has the plan? The whole universe.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, honestly, it does feel like the universe is looking out for us. And the more I follow my heart and help somebody or do something like that when I feel called to do it, the more everything just kind of falls into place.
And I do agree with that 100%, actually. I have noted in my life, and I've been a super type AAA personality, and I still am in certain areas of my life. It's something that I personally work on to not have that manifest in a way that's dysfunctional in my life, like overly controlling here or whatever. And I think,
totally get that.
Oh my God, I know. And I think for me personally, that comes from having so much of my world be non-concrete, that the few portions of my world that I can, quote, control or, quote, have control over, and that is a construct that's just silly. In my younger years, I think I kind of snowed myself. I sold myself a bill of goods, believing that I had, quote, control over certain things just to make myself feel better. When in fact, I really didn't. The only thing I ever had control over was how I perceived any situation and how I chose to conduct myself. Those are the 2 things we always have control over. Yet, when I look at this, I look at money differently also. And, and I'm going to back up and just tell a little bit of my own story here, is that here I came from entertainment, gang. I was a young lady in entertainment, and I was in music, and I was a rock star, and I never thought of myself as the sexy chick. Although I go back and look at pictures of myself, and I'm like, damn, you were fine. What was wrong with you? But it just was never, I'm serious. And it's so silly because that's not where my self-identity was, right?
Right.
I was the person in my mind, my self-identity was the talented person or the smart person. And I thought I looked cool enough, but I wasn't living on my looks. The reason I tell that story is because I was working in an industry that put 100% of my value on how I looked. And I knew that was true, but I think I just detached from it and kind of didn't care because, when you're in your 20s, you're giving life the bird, man. I mean, you're out there just raging against the machine. But I'm bringing this up because my own journey with money was rough. When I grew up, we didn't have any. And my parents got divorced when I was young. And we moved in, my mom and I moved in with my grandparents, and my mom went back to school. My dad paid for my mom to get her bachelor's degree because she was a stay-at-home mom. My dad's an upstanding guy. He believes in education. And even though they weren't married anymore, she got her bachelor's degree and went on to be a teacher for 25 years and touched many lives. And, living in my grandparents' house, we lived in the basement, and my grandma grew all the food, and we had organic before organic was cool. I didn't even know. So I grew up not knowing we didn't have any money. I grew up on a social services program for free lunches. And my grandma told me to not tell kids that I got a free lunch because I got super excited. I got picked for this, right? I didn't realize we got picked for it because we were low income. I was so excited. I wanted to go tell my best friend Penny and tell the whole school, I got picked! And my grandma, being a smart lady, pulled me aside and said, pal, you're going to make all those other kids feel bad. If you tell them you got picked and they didn't get picked, it's going to make them feel bad. You don't want to make them feel bad. No, Grandma, no. So I never told anybody. But the point I'm making is my journey with money. We always had food on the table. I always had fun clothes on my back. My grandma made me a lot of custom cool stuff. So I never felt like I was lacking. But it was not related to income, I came to find out later. So then you spring into the world, you go work in entertainment. It's all about a lot of money. And I had to fight for my money as a woman in music 20 years ago. Hard. I had to fight for it hard. So it developed some edges on my personality that I guess were karmic maybe and lessons that I got called things like a chocolate-covered bullet. I got called a secret razor. I got called a deadly weapon. These were what the industry people called me because they didn't know I had a brain under all that blonde hair. And so my relationship with money was weird because it was something that I had to duke it out for because people just weren't going to give it to me. Mm-hmm. Had I been a guy, they would give me a ton of money, but I had to work for it. I had to argue for why I should get paid in that industry, which is stupid. And I hope it's better a little now. But the reason I'm bringing this up is when you talk about money and just letting it come to you, I was forged in the marketing shadow of entertainment, which is if you don't get your ass out there and wag it and stay relevant with content 100% of the time, then people will abandon you and you'll go broke. Now, how is that for a grotesque desperation model? I mean, the entertainment industry, especially of old, I think it's starting to shift now, which you and I are part of. Mary Erickson, producer of Road Angel. There's a lot of great women out there, and men too, who are shifting the entertainment industry. But my version, my walk with money, was rough because I also got a whole bunch of it as a younger person and blew it on crap, guitars and pretty boots and oh my God, So when you talk about the universe bringing you something when you need it, I had to deprogram myself. This was a lot of hard work from the desperation of not constantly throwing myself in front of people, and I could see, though I wasn't consciously doing it, Melissa, it was so ingrained in me. I didn't realize I was doing it when I first went into spiritual work, and I was putting out predictions all the time. And actually, I also really like to let people know what's happening. That was the other part of that. But there was this weird, like, if I didn't have a prediction, I'd be like, oh, I better write a blog post.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I better do a video. And this is my early days, in the early 2000s of all this. But I had to let all that go as I became aware that, universe, God, whatever, is going to bring me the clients that are right for me. Mm-hmm. And at some level, if nobody was booking, I had to figure out that wasn't a reflection on me. That was just where people were at.
Right.
And so doing this job I guess I could have ended up being a real ass hat through this job. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I could have made some choices and been a cult leader, I guess, if I really was like a nut. But I chose to grow. I chose to leave behind this extreme desperation to constantly be seen and no one will love me and everyone will leave me and all this horse crap I was taught.
I don't think this is really interesting because I think your experience in the entertainment industry is not all that different from a woman's experience in corporate America.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
People that go into the entertainment industry have a different personality than people that go into the corporate America industries. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's the similarities are that I felt like I always had to be performing. Ugh. I felt like I always had to look good.
Oh, there's that too.
Man, if you look good, then the important people notice you. So I'm just saying, I think your experience is super relevant to so many people.
That's cool.
It's like a micro. It's so many women's experience in so many different.
Aw, well, ladies,
fields.
Then I'm glad I told the story because I was under and I know women have to kind of have had to wag it in different ways for the same amount of money. It just grows. And hopefully we're changing all that, ladies. And gentlemen, thank you for being part of the solution as well. We appreciate you.
Right.
So, I just want to say as that wrap up to that, and thanks for mentioning that, is that for me to get to the point of purpose and money, I had to learn that there was a great humility that came with recognizing that I didn't have the big plan. I didn't.
Yeah.
There was great humility and the giving away of ego to admit that maybe my big fat plan was just flat ass wrong. Really.
Yeah.
And so this was, ladies and gentlemen, and all folks out there, this was not something that happened to me overnight. This was like a years-long process. So speed up to COVID for me. Mm-hmm. And by this time, I had let go of a lot of that push stuff. And I figured, I'm going to put out stuff when I'm asked to. It will resonate when it does. I love reading for every single person that contacts me. Yet if it's not meant to be, that's cool. Mm-hmm. I will trust God in the system that I'll be able to help my wife with the rent and the phone bill and all these things. And the more I let go, the more money I made.
Yeah.
It was nuts. And it defied every single thing I was taught by that dysfunctional industry that wants people to pander to it and make it God, right? And so if you are a woman or a man out there who feels like that you've got to shove yourself out there and you've got to push. I mean, I'm not saying challenge the universe. Hear me. I'm not saying go bury yourself in a hole to challenge the universe to see who will dig you up in order to find your worth. I mean, don't hide and then say, come find me if this is really true. Because I tell you what, universe is going to leave you in that hole and your best friend's going to be an earthworm. So prep up for that. Mm-hmm. Yet it was not until, to your point, I came to this place with money that the money will come when I am happy and peaceful and enjoy and doing what I need to do. And I still struggle with this once in a while. There were some pockets of COVID where people were trying to make their rent, Melissa.
Yeah.
They're trying to pay their bills. They're not calling the Oracle. Right. Come on. I am completely disposable income. Come on. So, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God. And I was looking into maybe just when I was starting to let that prefrontal cortex be the 50s dad and say, what the hell's wrong with you? Get out there off your ass and do something. Like, I am doing something. I had a message on Facebook I put out or my blog today. That's my big accomplishment. Well, that's jackass. What are you doing? Sitting there picking around on your computer? Good God. Doing one thing today. Oh, that's a lot. And I went through my periods of fighting with that. And whenever I could you'll feel it in your chest, gang. When we come out of our limbic system, our chest contracts. You'll feel it in your chest. Your heart chakra shrinks when you go into fear. And I had a lot of shrinking heart chakra moments. But through this COVID thing, I kind of got spit out the other side. And I really feel that I've gone through a lot of personal transitions that I didn't even know I had in there to transition out of.
Yeah.
I thought I did all my heavy lifting with letting go of the entertainment stuff and the desperation. And now if you read anything online that I put out there, it's because I'm damn happy to do it. There's not 1 ounce of desperation behind that. I'm like, read it if you want to. Otherwise, let it go, man. Go do something else with your day.
I love that. And that's kind of equates to me feeling like if I want to take a minute to go help a friend with their business, that's like the most worthwhile thing that I can do that day.
Absolutely. And I've watched you go through so many iterations of Melissa.
Yeah.
And you continue to go through these transitions.
Still
it's
going.
cool though, man. And I watch my wife do this, and you and my wife, if I can just brag you both up, have gone into business together on a T-shirt printing, option. And my wife calls it high vibrary, and it's one of the lines that she's made up. Yet you guys are printing these T-shirts. And
upcycled clothing.
So tell everybody a little bit about that, too, because here we're talking herbalism, spiritualism, corporate America, and this just came about.
And so your wife is a healer as well. And the business the idea is upcycled clothing. So we're preserving our resources, not creating new clothing, but we are printing positive messages on the clothing. Yeah. And actually part of my part in it too is I want to print botanicals and different plants and stuff on the clothing, because if you think about it, like every different plant supports different parts of your body. So let's say there's so much to this though. This is just in a nutshell. So let's say your heart chakra needs nourishment, or there's something going on with your heart chakra. Well, then maybe you should be wearing a shirt with a rose on it.
Yeah.
Or something like that, So people are going to be drawn to the different botanicals that are there to help them, and then positive messaging.
That's the name of the company, High Vibrary.
Yep.
And you guys can find High Vibrary on Instagram and on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. And on
Etsy.
Etsy, you can find it on Etsy, and it's HIVIBERY. You can also go to Kinesi Coaching Studios. And it's my wife, Rebecca Douglas, and Melissa, put this. Rebecca originally founded High Vibrary with upcycled jewelry, and she put together jewelry, and still does, out of different pieces of pre-existing jewelry, and she reassembles it and puts it together, and then stamps out mantra words. And if you want a specific word that's a power word or a healing word, she intuits the design for you. My wife is a giant channel, massive empath. That's another story. That poor baby. There's not enough tourmaline in the world for Rebecca some days. God, my poor baby. Jeez. But she feels into the person, creates a custom piece of jewelry through the use of disassembling other beautiful pieces. So again, we're not ripping apart the earth and taking out more metals and whatever. So the reason I bring this up is that this is something that came to Melissa and to Rebecca during this COVID timeframe. And you guys made a choice to act on it. And so you're just getting started on this, which is super cool. And if anybody wants to reach out with the High Vibrary stuff, you can reach out to Rebecca at rebecca@rebeccadouglas.com or
at Melissa's Apothecary at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Are we doing emails?
Yes, we're doing emails.
Gotcha.
Sorry. Yes. Oh, yeah. We're doing emails right now. So, but I want people to be able to get in contact because it's important. Words have weight. Images have weight. Colors, vibrations have weight. And that's another podcast for another time.
Matters.
Everything matters.
Yeah.
So just in wrap up here, how do you find your life path purpose? You be fluid. You allow yourself to morph and change. You hush up that prefrontal cortex and let limbic system talk to you. In order to do that, you may need to do a meditative or repetitive action like garden or walk or fix up your workshop or mow your lawn or whatever it is.
Build a rock wall outside. Plant a flower.
Fun.
Yeah, we've done that.
I know, it's super fun.
Yeah. Take a minute. Just take a minute. I know we're wrapping up, but I've had several clients that have had work issues, like lots of businesses have closed. Lots of people have lost their jobs and find themselves stuck with a month or two of downtime. And thank God for unemployment, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they're like, God, what do I do with myself? I'm not used to doing nothing. So there is your opportunity. That's an opportunity to sit quietly with yourself, to do one of a menial task with your hands and let the universe talk to you. And
what we used to think of as menial, but ends up being No, but I know what you mean. And it's just interesting. And we think of it as a menial task. Fact of the matter is, it's a necessary, repetitive task to allow that limbic system to talk to us. So once we get into that space, then we go to the trust portion of our program. And the trust portion is you got to trust. You've got to make a decision to trust the information. Once you've gone through all those steps, once you were fluid, Once you've kind of let go, once you've let yourself go into this repetitive system, you're not judging yourself anymore. You're just letting it happen. You're getting this download from the universe. Trust yourself to act on it. Because we are indelibly connected to the universe 24/7. We are quantum beings. Your soul is a quantum filament that's woven into a quantum network of quantum beings that were here before and after you, that know what's happening for you. And you are not here to be wasted. Your gifts and talents are not here to be squandered. And you are literally here to enable yourself to let go and relax, and then give yourself permission to pursue that which gives you joy. And I can hear y'all thinking out there, well, how the hell am I going to make money on that? The only thing I can tell you is this. The most money I've ever made is when I quit trying to make it. And I just started focusing on what I love doing. And that joy started to bring in money that I didn't expect, And, through COVID, we had grants and we had loans and we had all these different things that I wasn't expecting. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, people who are then graciously booking with readings because they too are getting stimulus and grants and loans and blah. And it's not that I made $1 million in 2020. It's not that. It's that I just was not trying at all. And I was just doing what gave me joy, and the money was there anyway, gang. And that's what I'm here to tell you, and Melissa is here to tell you. Our purpose is bringing through what you're supposed to bring through at that time. And if it's a corporate job, that is awesome. Keep doing it. Just let yourself be fluid in other areas of your life, potentially. And let yourself roll in those other areas of your life. Trust is the last piece of this. And then take action on it. And I know we're over time here, but the last part of taking action on it, gang, it's the feminine time frame. So you will recognize that you are being redirected onto a new purpose or path when you have to, your plan would have been A or B, but you're being asked to do a hybrid of both of them. And in order to do that C option, you've got to take a big step, either financially or taking another job or buying another house. It might be a between A and B hybrid idea, but it's a big step to take it. That's how you know. And you'll notice when you take the step, you'll get this rush of, oh my God, I'm breaking new ground. I don't even know what I'm doing. This is so awesome. And when you get that rush, you'll know you're on your new path. You should be a little scared and a little thrilled and feel like you're 16 all over again. Now you're blazing your new path. That's what it feels like. Does that make sense, Melissa?
Yeah. Also, be open while you're finding that new path. Be open to working with others. I think right now that's a huge thing is partnerships and just coming together with other like-minded people to do something wonderful.
And be okay to evolve, and really quickly, there's a book called Outliers out there. And in essence, it talks about folks like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or people who really, really go crazy and excel financially and with their careers. And in essence, it talks about accruing 10,000 hours of working on one particular endeavor before you become an expert. And once you hit that 10,000 hours, it is a natural transition for an individual to want to apply their skill set outside of the parameters which got them the 10,000 hours. It's time to do something slightly different. Mm-hmm. And so if you're somebody who has your 10,000 hours and you're feeling like, I'm still going to work in this field, but I'm going to do it differently. And that's where I feel I'm headed. I can feel that changing in my own world. So that's just kind of a bullet point there at the end. Melissa, we got to wrap this up. My God, yes.
I am just laughing at the 10,000 hours thing because for me, it's way under 10,000 hours before I change what I do. But
that's okay.
No, I'm saying it's okay.
But by the time you made the big change in what you did,
that's true.
You had 10,000 hours under your belt.
But even as you go, just be able to evolve on a small level throughout the whole journey.
And you will be placed where you need to be placed. Mm-hmm. You'll find your purpose. You'll find your joy. Melissa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? If they want some healing work, you do distance healing work?
I do distance healing work, and I also have an office in Billings, so I do both. And you can find me at www.vintageapothecaryshop.com. You can make an appointment right online. You can call me at 406-850-3287.
And you can find her on Instagram and on Facebook.
That's so true.
You can
Vintage
hit her up.
Apothecary. Yep.
Melissa Scianna, Vintage Apothecary. Thank you again, Melissa.
Thank you.
Check out High Vibery. Again, you can find High Vibery on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on Kinesi Coaching Studios. There's a High Vibery page there. And I encourage everybody to be not afraid, but courageous. Be not fearful, but excited. Don't feel like you're a loser. Feel like you're a mover in this big, fluid space of your next purpose of your life. Everybody, thank you once again, Melissa. And I will see you next podcast.